everyone, welcome. I'm so excited to introduce my guest today. We have with us Robyn Savage. She is the host of the Brand Is You podcast. She's also launching a new blog called Becoming the Brand. She's been an entrepreneur for over 10 years and she's created multiple 6- and 7-figure brands along the way. Her gift is articulating your ideas, visions, and unique skills in a way that truly connects with your ideal clients so that your brand can become recognizable and sought after. Hi, Robyn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. Wow, you delivered that so well.
Thanks. I nailed it. I didn't stutter one single word.
You
I'm
nailed
on
it. Oh
fire
my
today.
gosh.
So I'm so excited to dive into branding, particularly from the angle of like multi-passionates. And I have so many
Mm.
questions to ask you, but before we dive in, please tell us, like, how did you end up doing this work? What's your story?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that's a great question. And I feel like so many of your listeners, I could probably sit here and tell you my story for hours, you know? I always feel like how I got here is this accumulation of, 36 years of life and events and experiences, but I'm going to sum it up into a really short, quick summary. I always had this desire to live, right? And I recognized actually recently through some healing work and personal work in my life that aliveness is one of my just core values. And even in the simple moments, just feeling that fullness of really being alive. And no job that I found could give me that feeling. And I had my dream jobs, and I was never someone who settled. I quit jobs before I even started them if they didn't feel aligned. And it didn't matter which room I ended up in. I just always felt this feeling of restriction and almost this limit, like this claustrophobic feeling. So I honestly never set out on the path to become an entrepreneur. I never recognized myself as innovative or business driven or entrepreneurial in any sense. And that desire to really feel alive in my life just pushed me to continue making these decisions that wound me up into, or not wound me up, I mean that gives a paints a kind of a funny picture, but kind of just catapulted me into this direction of starting my own thing. And from there, I mean, once you commit to that vision of being your own boss and doing your own thing, I'm not sure if you can relate to this, but I just had no option, like I had to succeed. And so I literally said yes to everything that felt like a yes along the way, all of the opportunities that in hindsight created what is now my career. But at the time just felt like, okay, all right, okay, we'll do that. We'll figure this out. Let's do that. Let's try this. And I'm really fortunate because I always figured it out. And I think that drive to feel alive and to make it work got me here.
The way you just articulated that was like just so accurate. Like I've never been able to articulate that feeling in the way that you just described it. It's so perfect. And it's like, yeah, the way I've talked about it in the past is that just like following the breadcrumbs, it's like the next best option appeared and you took that. And then the next best option appeared and you're just like always moving, yeah, towards that, like you said, that feeling of aliveness that really resonates. And yeah, a lot of people have asked me before, like, have you ever thought of quitting or doing something different? And I was like, that literally has never even crossed my mind because there's never been another option for me. Like I never even really had a career to like go back to, I've always just been like moving away from restriction. And this is kind of, yeah, where I ended up. So yeah, that really, really speaks to me. And what this is making me think of, and something that I think about a lot, is like the intersection between like business and like artistry and the
Mm,
world of entrepreneurship and business and the world of like being an artist and being a creative, because I feel like there's there's like sometimes a lot of friction between those two worlds, but I think what you've described is just creativity, like aliveness. It's like, having that inspiration to create something through you and to create experiences and to find fulfillment in self-expression, which entrepreneurship really lends itself to. But yeah, there's a lot of points of friction between those two things, right? When it comes to sales and selling yourself and like negotiating and asking for what you want and having boundaries within, like oftentimes creativity is something that can feel very boundaryless. So yeah, is that like something that you can speak to? Like, what has been your experience of taking your creative self-expression and your impulses and then kind of like shaping that into business and obviously like generating income from it?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Creatives aren't always willing or ready to talk business. And a lot of business minded people aren't really stoked on talking about creativity. And that friction that you mentioned, Sarah, is really the friction point between linear thinking and divergent thinking. And if you imagine a straight line encounters a swirly line, the two of them don't seem fitting, right? They seem to clash with one another. And you can imagine that that can be really disruptive and even create conflict. And so I actually have a business degree. I went to university for business, and the way that I ended up there is pretty hilarious. And also a story that so many people share from my generation, I feel. I was like, I'm going to go to fine art school. And my dad was like, absolutely not. Like, what the hell are you going to do with a fine art degree? And I was like, okay, fine. In fine art, I won't do. I'll go to journalism. He's like, same thing. Journalists are artists. Like, crap, go, whatever. So, through this sort of trying to funnel my way into creativity, I actually got a little bit pigeonholed into business without much choice, but I ended up finding the creative elements within my courses. So for me, I learned really early that the two can be synonymous, right? Business and creativity can come together in union, in actually sacred union, to honor one another, to support one another, to complement one another. But we have to be able to reframe the way we think about business and creativity. We have to understand that business can be creative and that creativity actually creates business, right? Without innovative thinking and divergent thinking and being able to have people in our communities who think outside the box, business would be really boring, right? So when we actually stop thinking so black and white, which our brains love to do, and allow ourselves to move a little bit into that gray zone where business and creativity can alchemize and blend with each other to create something beautiful and epic and different, something unique, something that makes people curious and interested. Well, all of the sudden, we have a great business, right? Now we have something that people want to look at. And I actually think it's a huge disservice to business if we block out creativity. And we also know that from a creative standpoint, without the business, we suffer, right? And this is one of those identities that a lot of creatives almost wear with pride, right? Like, I'm a starving artist, or like, I just do it for the love of it. Well, that's great. And we all love an artist story, but the truth of it is, if we want to create lives for ourselves, right? If we want to live our life's work, if we want to thrive as an artist or creative, then we actually need to move past the point of friction when it comes to stepping into our role as business people. And we need to learn how to embody that so that we can actually support ourselves to make money, right? And that's where I think a lot of creatives and artists get a little bit stuck in their craft. So yeah, the friction is there, and there comes a point where we decide like, okay, if I'm going to do this as a living and I want to quit my part-time job or my full-time job, then I'm really going to have to put on a new hat and learn how to make money doing this.
I love this conversation so much. So I want to dive into branding. Like, I want to know what you have to say to the person who's like, I have so many gifts and so many things. I'm so multifaceted, multi-talented, complex. I help people in so many different ways, and I love to do that. And I love to be all of the things. And I don't want to niche. I don't want to put myself in a box. I don't want to limit myself when it comes to growing my business. What do you have to say to that person?
Tell the world who you are then, right? Tell the world what you do. And my favorite question, and it's pinned on my Instagram feed right now, is what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for? And there's so many ways that we can get our message out there. We are in a time, we're in an era where literally there's too much access to information. So I think first and foremost, I would tell that person to commit to getting their message out there and to figuring out what that message is. Okay. If your message is, I'm a multi-passionate human who can help you in many ways, great. Say that, right? Say that, and then use your content strategy, create content pillars that communicate all of the ways which you can help me. But what doesn't serve us is if you try and skirt around the issue, right? If you try and say, I'm a life coach who helps you get good at stuff. Well, okay, great, but that's not enough, right? So if you can take it one step further to say, hey, I'm a life coach who helps you get really good at stuff. Let's get you organized. Let's get you focused. Let's get you productive. Let's get you more joyful, and let's get you rich. Okay, great. Well, now let's talk about the ways in which you can help me. But what we see a lot in the world of business is the message and communication that we can only help people with one of those things, right? You can only talk about money. You can only talk about wellness. You can only talk about parenting. You can only talk about strategy. And that is where I just don't buy into that, right? I just don't believe that that's true, because just like you are multifaceted and all of your listeners are multifaceted and I am multifaceted, we are only creating more restriction for ourselves and integrating that old business paradigm that says, I'm only a secretary, I'm only a finance guy, I'm only a photographer. Well, guess what? It's 2023, and we actually can move beyond that to be in this world where we get to exist as all of us. But in order to do that, our ability to communicate and articulate has to be even better than it has been. So this would be my message is, yes, own all of you. Don't be afraid to be all of you, but know who all of you is so that you can very easily and readily articulate those things to us so that there's no miscommunication, there's no confusion. Don't leave gaps for people to create their own narratives. Tell us what those multifaceted parts of you are so that we can choose them.
So good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think something that's really helped me, as like a manifesting generator, somebody who like loves diving into many different things, is this notion of seasons. Like it's okay to have different seasons, and also just recognizing that like my message, I feel like often it feels like we're talking about something drastically different when actually to the outside world it still like really fits into the umbrella of like who you are and your broader message. And it's okay to switch things up and be playful and experiment and have different seasons on different topics and things like that.
Yeah, totally. And I think one of the things just on that point is, so for example, if you decided one day, and I don't know your brand that well, Sarah, but if you decided one day that you were going to start talking about supplements, and health had been something that was not ever on your radar before, you just had never talked about it, then, for example, you may want to do an introduction video. You may want to go live to your audience and say, hey, guess what? Recently, I've been on this journey and I've really started to embrace my health. I've started to explore what makes me feel better in my body and what gives me energy and what gives me more vitality and vibrancy. And I want to share these supplements with you because this actually really supported me. Right? So you may want to introduce this brand new topic to your audience because you are introducing another layer to your brand. But what we tend to do is we tend to get so micro in our messaging, right? Because we've all been told to stay small, only talk to one person. And what happens when we create multidimensional personal brands and we actually use these social channels to talk to people and have conversations is that when we have these daily conversations and they're already talking about these specific topics. So for example, camping, you love to camp, you love to be in nature. Most of your pictures are of you eating, right? You've got this really cool story. You're into creativity and storytelling. So when you talk about all of those things, we already know it. But in your mind, because you get so micro in here in your brain, you think, oh no, yesterday I was talking about camping and today I'm talking about running a business. This is so effed up. But your audience is like, no, Sarah, like we know you, right? We already know you're doing that. But when you go to introduce this new element and this new conversation, this new topic, that's when we can actually make a bigger deal of it and say like, hey, this is something that I've experimented with for myself, or this is a direction I'm going in, or this is something I'm introducing to my business, to my brand, and I want to talk to you about this. But once it's part of the chit chat, fair game.
I love it. So when it comes to, significantly like growing visibility, reaching more people with your message, what are some of the main ways that you see entrepreneurs kind of getting stuck or hung up?
Every way. Oh, people get hung up on everything, but some of the most common things, honestly, are consistency. Um, and I recorded a podcast on this, so I'll just briefly talk about it, but I really recommend anyone go listen if they struggle with consistency, because there's two ways to be consistent and people struggle with both. There's the cadence, right? Sort of the frequency in which you're showing up. And one of my favorite examples for this type of consistency, how frequently you're showing up, is like you start dating someone new and the person you're dating, you're like, oh my gosh, I think this is the one. I am so happy. I'm so excited. I can't believe it. Finally. And you go on these dates and you're kind of increasing communication. And then one day they just stop showing up. And you're like, what happened? Like, you stopped texting me back. You left me hanging at the dinner table. Like, I'm just now by myself. And what happens for entrepreneurs is they go through this broad spectrum of emotion, right? And one day we're feeling super confident, and one day we're feeling super creative, and one day we're feeling super Leo, and we're like, blah, like all the cameras, all the lights, all the action. And then we get our period, and then we get in an argument, or then we feel fucking tired, and we just like forgot to eat a meal, and our emotions change and our mood changes. And what happens when we lead our businesses from this emotional state and we stop showing up in that original kind of emotional set, like that set of emotions that had us on fire and consistent and leading and present and visible online, is that all of a sudden the person on the other side is like, what the hell happened? Right? Where did you go? And while the entrepreneur is at home in bed, with their head under the covers crying because they lost their confidence. The people on the internet, the people they have worked so hard to connect with, to build a brand relationship with, are like, where did you go? And they've already moved on.
Before we dive back in, I just wanted to let you know that if mastering launching a signature high ticket group program is a part of your vision for your business and life this year, then I would be over the moon to have you join us inside my newest offer, Profitable Group Programs. So being clear on who you really want to be calling into your offer is so crucial when you're launching a group program. And you want your content to make it super fucking clear who the offer is for and who it's not for. And you'll know when you've succeeded at this when strangers from the internet are consistently finding you, buying your offer, and becoming your new soulmate sisters because they are such a perfect fit for your work. So if this isn't your experience, there are tweaks in your messaging that can unlock this for you. It all starts with doing the deep work of really understanding how you're positioning yourself and your offer. So finding this sweet spot is really the meeting point of what you really want to be selling in your business. That's focused around what you're actually already good at because you've created those results for yourself already. And it's focused on creating the most valuable outcome that you are really truly excited to help your dream clients with. And to be honest, getting to this kind of clarity is super hard without someone else to guide you because there's so much noise that gets in the way when you're dealing with the usual challenges of entrepreneurship, like imposter syndrome, money mindset stuff, and building skill and building self-trust. So adding in this kind of support is truly the most valuable thing you can give yourself in your business, which is why I created Profitable Group Programs. It's a live 3-month group coaching experience to launch a high ticket group program that adds 3 to 10K and beyond to your monthly revenue and supports you to repurpose, resell, and automate your program launch and the delivery for repeat sales month after month, year after year. So you can sign up at withsarahmac.com/profitable-group-programs. I have some more exciting news that my epic new masterclass is now on sale. It is called Write Your Best-Selling Offer Pitch to Confidently Sell Your High-Ticket Coaching Offer. And in this workshop, you will craft a confident, clear 2 to 3 sentence pitch that will accurately communicate the value of your offer every time you pitch it. You will understand how to let your dream clients know exactly how your offer meets their needs and desires before they've even seen your sales page, and have a formula that you can use to confidently sell any offer at the end of a social post, a live stream, a podcast ad, or an email. And you'll feel confident getting repetitive without wandering off your most profitable message. So you grab the attention of the right buyers every time you show up and share your work. This is really the skill that allowed me to go from a nobody with a tiny audience to being a 6-figure mindset coach, helping all kinds of creatives to go for their unique dreams in so many different kinds of offers, priced from $22 to $17,000. So go to withsarahmac.com under the masterclasses tab, and you can get instant access to that masterclass.
While the entrepreneur is at home in bed with their head under the covers crying because they lost their confidence, the people on the internet, the people they have worked so hard to connect with, to build a brand relationship with, are like, where did you go? And they've already moved on, right? They've already lost trust. They've already stopped relying on you. They've already started to doubt you. So we start to tarnish the brand relationship when we lead with emotions and when we stop showing up consistently. Now, I know that can be like a scary thing for a lot of people to hear. You don't have to show up every single day, multiple times a day. If that's not your jam, that's totally fine. But I do suggest picking a cadence, a frequency, a consistency level that you can comfortably sustain so that your audience can get used to hearing from you 2 times a week. That's incredible, right? They know then, they can predict then that you are going to be there 2 times a week, 3 times a week, once a month even. I really don't care what it is, but show up for that, right? So consistency is one massive struggle. And then the other massive struggle, and the second form of consistency that I really love to touch on, is consistency in your message. Like, what are you saying, right? So for me, my core brand message is the brand is you. So Sarah, the brand is you. The brand is your accent. The brand is your vibrant energy. The brand is your colorful personality. The brand is your city life and your love for the forest. The brand is all of who you are. But if you were showing up one day to promote Kit Kat bars, and then you were showing up to promote green juice, and then you were showing up to promote a coaching program, and then you were showing up to promote sneakers, and then you were saying you believed in God, and then you were saying that God was the devil, and then you were married, and then you were divorced, and then you were married again, and then you were divorced, and then you were married, we would be like, oh, like, what is going on? Right? We can't connect to anything when you don't give us a consistent message to connect to. So the fact that we are creating magic, right? The fact that you're a badass in business, the fact that you have these core phrases that you return to, the fact that your brand is always colorful, the fact that you are consistently outdoors, the fact that you are constantly interviewing people to share their inspiring stories. These create consistent markers in your message that give us a really stable, reliable, foundational relationship with you. They give us an opportunity to plug in. So you can be multidimensional. And in fact, you're really good at it, right? So in you being this multidimensional version of Sarah and staying consistent with your content pillars, and to be honest, I don't even know if you know you're super consistent with your content pillars, but you rock it, and that creates the stability for us. So those are things I see entrepreneurs get super stuck in. And that's actually three big things, right? It's the frequency in which they show up, their emotions, and also their consistent brand message. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. So what do you say about, the emotional management piece and showing up? Like, what nuggets of wisdom do you have around that for people who are like, yeah, I'm like, I've been through like a chronic health condition, or I'm going through, grief or whatever. Yeah, do you have any kind of like nuggets of wisdom to kind of shift the mindset to create easy consistency?
Yeah, so that's a really great point. Grief, oof, chronic illness, these things will knock you off your feet. And it's my honest belief that we need to let life knock us off our feet, right? We need to be able to lay in bed when we need to lay in bed. We need to be able to tend to our children and to heal our marriages and to take a week to pack up our apartments and move across the country. We need to be able to do those things. And if you actually zoom out a little bit and look at a, quote unquote, regular job, we have vacation time for that, right? We take 4 days off to move. We take mat leave. We take 2 weeks off for our wedding in Italy, whatever it is. And as entrepreneurs, it's our responsibility to create foundational business processes and systems and automations that can allow us to have sick days and human days and grief seasons. And this has been something that I've been really focused on in my own business. I'm a Manny Gen also. And Manny Gens, for anyone who is into human design, I have an ADHD brain as well. And I have 2 young kids and a super active social life and so many ideas and so much creativity that it can be really hard to channel it productively. And so for a lot of years, I ran my business based on inspiration and intuition and creative hits. And that served me for a really long time. But it was also a season of my life where I could work 20-hour days and I had very few outside responsibilities. And as I got older and we bought a house with gardens and we have pets and humans to take care of, and my relationship requires nurturing and presence. It became really obvious to me about 5 years ago that things were going to have to change in the way I operated. Right. So if you can imagine your business or a business has a COO, Chief Operations Officer, and that COO's job is to make sure that the entire company is operating efficiently and effectively, right? No resources being wasted, no time being wasted, that everyone's in the right roles. We've got human, I can't even remember now. I want to say human design, human relations.
Human
Human
resources.
resources. That's mostly what my degree is in, which is hilarious. Human resources who organize people, and we've got all these different departments who are making sure the systems work, who are making sure that the client experience is on point and the customer service is there. And as entrepreneurs, I think it's really important. And I'm actually going to zoom out for a minute and take that one step further. But as creative entrepreneurs, right? Because this is where it gets really complicated and really tricky. As creative entrepreneurs, it's really important that we step back and we look at the bigger picture. Because for me, the thing that has dramatically changed my relationship to my business are things like batching content and having automated systems and having a website that hosts all of my offers that people can buy all of the time, having quarterly programs that I run on repeat. So I'm creating buying patterns in my audience. I have repurposed content going up. I have scheduled content. I have an email marketing plan. I have plans to grow my brand that are in the works behind the scenes. So for me, success really looks like eventually, and I'm not here yet, but I'm getting closer and closer. Success looks like the ability to say, grief has taken a hold of me today, and I cannot show up, and I don't have to, because my business is operating without me, and my brand is still out there in the world representing who I am and building connections the way that I need it to, so that I can take a fucking nap, right? So that I can relax or get married or have a baby or eat a meal and just sit, because I need to sit, right? And that would be something that I think we all need to look at one point in our journey as entrepreneurs, because we will find out very early on that it is super unsustainable to be 110% of the things 110% of the time.
Yeah, that really resonates. It was similar for me. Like, I just built my business on creating content every day and creating new programs all the time and being in that real like inspiration and flow. And then having a ton of like chronic health stuff, like immigrating. We all went through the pandemic, and it's like suddenly when life stuff just gives you a big shit sandwich that you have to chew, and it's like taking up a lot of your time and energy. Yeah, it really forced me to into doing things differently. And for a while I was in the mindset of like, oh, like it's broken, or like I'm broken because I can't do things in the way that used to be working for me. And now, I've really been able to recognize like, businesses are just this like growing organism, and there are different seasons. And yeah, once you've been established for a few years, I mean, there are other opportunities and options to grow in a way that is better and like makes it easier. But it does require new skill sets, new like ways of looking at it, new ways of being in relationship to business. And yeah, it's a fun ride. And there's, once I finally like got out of the mental pattern that like something was broken, I was like, oh no, like this is just a new phase that I'm being invited to step into. And yeah, like stretching my muscles around things that I wasn't good at before, like batching and stuff like that. So I'm still kind of in that process, but yeah,
It's a really uncomfortable seat to sit in. And this is what I think a lot of us forget. Our businesses get to this stage where they do start to work, right? And we are drawn to whatever works. Like a fly to the light. We're like, holy shit, it's working. Oh my gosh. Like this is it. That's the goal, right? You want a business that works. So as soon as it starts to work, and all of a sudden you recognize like, oh my gosh, I'm like a hamster in a wheel and I need to keep doing this thing in order for it to keep working. Well, what happens when all of a sudden you're like, I'm tired, or for me, I'm bored. right? Like, yeah, it's working and it's sustainable and we've got it going. But my most recent thing was like, I'm just bored. I want the excitement and I want the creativity back, because this system that I've created is like, it feels too easy. There was no challenge for me anymore. And so when we get to that place where we have the awareness of like, okay, either I can't sustain this, or this isn't fulfilling me anymore, or I have this new idea, the most uncomfortable thing to do is to change, right? And not to change because you have to, not to change because it's not working or not making you money or not serving people and having an impact, but to change because you want to change because you desire something different. That is really uncomfortable. And I don't know a lot of people who do that, right? This is why pain point marketing is pain point marketing, because humans move and humans change. Humans make decisions when they're experiencing pain. So, like yourself, you experienced chronic illness. We all experienced the pandemic and things changed for you. And you were like, shit, I can't do this. I got to make a change. Well, you experienced pain. You thought your business was broken, which catapulted you into this new direction, but having to take a new direction. And what I want to encourage people to do is to make the change before they get to the situation where they're like, shit, I can't get out of bed. Or crap, I'm like, now we're in the middle of this thing and now I have to change. But what if we could condition ourselves to change before we get to that state? Change to support our future selves and plan for something better, right? And that's kind of how my whole business is set up. I teach you how to batch content. I teach you how to build a multi-dimensional brand that can change and adapt with you. I teach you how to share your message in a way that people will listen and connect with you so that they'll actually move through seasons of change with you, right? Because that's a huge fear of people's also, is that if I change, then I'm going to lose my audience. If I change, then no one's going to follow me. If I change, then no one will buy what I'm selling. But I have been through so many iterations of myself. I mean, over 10 years, I've had a wedding planning business, a floral business, a coaching business, and now brand strategy and copywriting. And I have had thousands of the same followers who have bought from me, who have been brides and then moved into coaching containers and then hired me for their businesses. Like, so many people in my community have been through every single version of myself. And that is because I have brought them along on the journey with me. And I've always invited them into the change and the evolution. So we can change and we can build businesses that support us, but we have to be willing to go first.
Amazing. I could have this
Mhm.
conversation with you for hours. This has been awesome. So many incredible gold nuggets that you shared with us today. Thank you for coming on, Robyn. Can you tell us where can people find out? What have you got going on? And yeah, share what is next for anyone who's interested in working with you.
Yeah, first, thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation. It's been so great. And I love to have conversations with creative entrepreneurs. It feels always just inspiring. And so thank you so, so much. I have a quarterly mastermind. It's called the Branded Mastermind. And it's a really great place for anyone who is ready to step into the multidimensionality of their brand, to find cohesion and cohesiveness in their brand message, to really lay the foundation for their content pillars, to learn how to launch and sell authentically and conversationally. That's one of my huge core pillars in my business, is like, how can we sell to each other as an invitation rather than, that old paradigm, like used car salesman who's just trying to sell whatever he can. Like, we want to connect with people through desire-based marketing. And I want to teach you how to do that in a way that really honors all of who you are and connects you with the people who want to work with you and want to buy from you. So my mastermind is a really great place for that. Aside from that, I run monthly workshops. They are always $55. They are always integrative and hardcore and beautiful and mind-blowing. And so the monthly workshops are a really great thing to keep your eye on. If you're wanting to have like these consistent touch points in your brand and just like constantly be refining your work, And aside from that, the Brand Is You podcast are these like great conversations. A lot of them are personal, so you'll get to know me. And a lot of them are these like really micro hard hitting, it's kind of like a hit class for your brand where you really get to learn and soak it up. And yeah, I just hope to connect with all of you in all of these new great spaces.
And Robyn also has a program called is it Branding 101?
Yes.
Yeah, it's honestly the best program on branding that I've taken. So
Really?
yeah, I like it's so good. So, and I haven't even got all the way through it. It's so much content. So yeah,
It is.
Robyn's amazing, especially for, multi-passionate creatives that I know there are lots of in my audience. So definitely go and check her out. Thank you so much, Robyn. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye. For more inspirational content, head over to my website withsarahmac.com, and please support the show by liking, commenting, and subscribing.